Reiki, we hold space for people. That's what you do as an end-of-life doula. You hold space for people. University of Vermont offers a death doula certification program, and I went through that. I've also actually helped people in this aspect before. And while I know it's not for everybody, it's something that it's so gratifying on so many levels, because, you know, our big goal is to help somebody die well and have a good death. And it really takes a lot to sit with somebody and find out what a good death looks like to them, because a good death for me might look a lot different than a good death for you. In terms of, you know, let's think of it this way. If you were going to be having your last dinner, who would you want to be there with you? What would you want to eat? I mean, kind of look at it in that same parallel. Who do you want with you in your final days? What kind of music do you want to play? Do you want to play music? Do you want to leave a legacy? How do you want to leave your legacy? There are some people that are wonderful cooks. They'd like to leave the legacy of their recipes. You know, maybe they've never shared them, and now they want to share them with their loved ones, so that the legacy lives on. There are other people that have legacy projects that they want to do, whether it's telling their life story, or, you know, what they've learned in life, or advice they want to pass on to their loved ones. You know, these are things that are all relevant, and they're things that oftentimes we just don't think about while we're here and while we're healthy. What do we want to have done with our body? Do we want to have a regular burial where you have a funeral, or do you want to be cremated? Do you want something special with your ashes? Do you want a green burial? You know, there are all different ways now you can do human composting, and, you know, these are things that people just haven't thought about because, well, they've never had to think about them. As a doula, I do have a directory. It is roughly 25 pages, and that is inclusive of, you know, who do you contact at the Social Security office when a loved one dies, especially if it's your spouse. I mean, do you know what to do? Funeral homes, florists, alternative energy practitioners, all that's in my directory. And I have houses of worship for many different religions. Music for dementia patients, because we found that music is so instrumental in helping people with dementia. Our job as doulas is to companion somebody during their final days, to sit vigil with them if that's what the family and that's what the person wants, to really. And this is why Reiki is such a wonderful modality to combine with it, is because in Reiki we hold space for people. That's what you do as an end-of-life doula. You hold space for people. You meet them where they're at. So many of the same principles. So much of it is just being a good human, but, you know, you have to know too how to just listen, have empathy, and be present. My grandmother is what got me involved in Reiki. She was someone that, you know, had devastating arthritis, and she had been through many surgeries, and I wanted to do something that would help her. And I decided that maybe Reiki would be something that would be comforting to her and something that would help her, and it did. It helped her out a lot. I was not an end-of-life doula for my grandmother, but I didn't know such a thing existed either, because that was many, many years ago. But a dear friend of mine, my brother from another mother, I call him, his mother got sick, and I started with Reiki on her, and she loved it. And she saw the value in it. It brought her a lot of comfort. It brought her a lot of peace. And I just instinctively just started doing the work of a doula, not even realizing that I was doing it. And yes, it was very hard for me when she passed, because, I mean, you know, again, this is my adopted mom. But by the same token, it brought me such honor to be trusted to be there in her final days. I felt like I did bring her some peace. I felt like I brought the family some peace. If you look around us, look at the population now. We are a silver population. We're aging, we're all aging. And you just kind of look at the hospice system and you have so many wonderful people, but they're on a time schedule and they can't spend the time. The nurses, the same thing. They're on a schedule. They have to, go see the next patient. Being an end-of-life doula, you have a time schedule too, but it's not the same. You don't have the workload. You don't have the caseload. You can sit and spend time and companion people. You can give them a good death and help them with some dignity and leave a legacy. And isn't that what we all want? Okay, so one of my final projects as an end-of-life doula was I had to do an end-of-life life story for a volunteer. And I picked my dear friend Ruth, and Ruth lives in Ohio, and she is a hospice worker. And I thought it would be very interesting to get her life story, because even though she's a dear friend, I thought, since I've shared this journey with her of my end-of-life doula, that it would be really cool for her to share what her legacy is and what her story is. It was such a great assignment, because not only did I learn even more about somebody that's so special to me, but it was cool because I was able to take her words and I was able to weave a story out of an interview that I did. And I literally wrote everything down, and I had 10 pages of notes. But I transcribed them, and I did. I tried to weave it into a story of her life. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, but I did give it to her, and I said, can you just check this and make sure that I got everything right? I knew that I spelled the name of her college wrong, and I suspected I had some dates wrong. And she read it, and I said to her, did you like it? Do you want me to change anything? And she laughed, and she actually really liked it, but she's like, you made my life sound so exciting, which made me feel good. But I asked her, I said, well, is there anything you want me to change? And she said, no, just the dates and, the name of my college, spell it right. And I was like, okay, yep. I'm actually putting that into a document. I'm going to print it out on some parchment and put it in a pretty folio and actually mail it out to her so that she will have a copy of that, and it'll be a nice keepsake of the conversation that we had. It's her life story, it's advice to family members, it's lessons she's learned. Part of the reason that I love that assignment so much is because, first of all, it was just such a in-depth conversation to have with a dear friend, to learn more about them. But it also made me think too about, how when we get older and, we start losing friends, because we're older, how nice it is to have somebody want to hear your life story. And again, you're holding space for your friends, you're meeting them where they're at, you're practicing unconditional positive regard for them, and by doing this interview, you're doing things that are really life legacy projects for people as they're getting ready to transition. And it's just, it was a beautiful assignment, and I'm so glad I did it. And I love learning about Ruth.